Welcome to Lead for Good, a podcast for nonprofit leaders of all titles and all experience levels. This is a show where the audience will meet and get to know top nonprofit leaders. Together, we will take a deep dive into nonprofit leadership, endeavoring to uncover and unpack the most important characteristics, traits, strategies, and actions of successful nonprofit leaders. Through this journey together, we desire to help you, the nonprofit leader, grow your knowledge and capabilities to lead for good. We want you to achieve your full potential as leaders in the sector. So, welcome to the conversation. We're glad you joined us today. Without further delay, let's join our host, Chris Looney, as he interviews yet another extraordinary leader who is truly leading for good. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to Lead for Good, a show for nonprofit leaders that desire to level up their knowledge and skills to reach their full potential as leaders in the nonprofit sector. My name is Chris Looney, and I have the good fortune to be your host for this deep dive into nonprofit leadership. Today on Lead for Good, I'm thrilled to be joined by Betsy Biern, the Chief Executive Officer of Make-A-Wish Greater Bay Area. With a dynamic background in nonprofit leadership and a deep commitment to transformative impact, Betsy has helped guide one of the most beloved nonprofit organizations in the world through innovation, strategic growth, and unwavering mission focus. Under her leadership, Make-A-Wish Greater Bay Area has continued to bring hope, strength, and joy to children with critical illnesses. And today, we're going to explore Betsy's leadership journey, as well as insights around how to empower and support nonprofit board members to lead with clarity, purpose, and accountability. This is going to be a fun show, a really informative session, and I'm excited to jump in. So welcome to the show, Betsy. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, thanks, Chris. I'm really excited. It's going to be a lot of fun.
A lot of fun indeed. So let's get into it and start with your leadership origin story. Tell us a little bit how you became the leader you are today.
Um, I think some of it started with having parents that from an early age instilled, cajoled, lightly pressured me into always kind of thinking about my community and what I was doing.
Nice.
It might have been that I made the mistake of coming in I don't know, fifth grade and saying I was bored before dinner. In the summertime. We've all done that. Some of us were just told to go away or read a book. I was told to do that. And then all of a sudden I was a coordinator for an American Heart Association walk.
Perfect. Yeah.
And from there, it became watching often my own father, who was a physician, but also served on boards and volunteered and was at that point president of our state affiliate of our American Heart Association.
Interesting.
Watching my own mother be actively involved in my hometown and friends of our local fabulous liberal arts college and actively involved in women's leadership groups and actively involved in historic preservation. And so I think there was a lot of emphasis in my family of sort of, what are you doing to improve the quality of life in your community? Maybe it was a Girl Scout badge that I thought looked kind of cool, that if I earned that and sold enough cookies, that would do it too. But I think that's part of the journey. And I actually think, I think it kind of hit home. I lost my father 20 some years ago, and I will never forget at the end of his memorial service when people in the community were coming up to me, his colleagues, his patients, people from the town, people from the college my mom had been on the board of friends of. How many people thanked me for sharing my dad with the community?
Oh my gosh, interesting.
When you hear something like that, all of a sudden those things that you sort of had modeled for you and you sort of undertook and you learn that these are a great way to make friendships and these are great ways to feel like you're doing something worthwhile, that's a quick and easy way to kind of solidify it. And I think it was probably then, and maybe a little earlier, where I had one other thing that always drives me, which is when I wake up on my 70th birthday. And by the way, that seems to be getting closer each year. So
amazing how time works.
Two things. One is Have I done, who have I served? How have I had an impact? Have I, do I feel uh, like I've, I've earned that? And maybe a little bit of, and have I earned enough that if I want a bacon every day, I can? So there you go. It's a journey.
I love it. I love it. Well, in the different roles that you've had in your career, what's been your favorite so far and why?
I love to raise money. I love to ask people to make an investment, not
Okay.
make a gift. It's different, right? I
Right.
love to talk to people. And I've been very lucky that I've had the honor, the privilege, and there's not even a word for it. I mean, there is a level of almost intimacy I've had with some of my board members, my donors, to have conversations about what kind of legacy they want to leave. What are
Right.
their values? How does their investment in the mission that I'm working on at the time align with theirs? And what's the opportunity they have ahead of them? I will never forget one meeting I had with a board member a number of years ago, sitting in his absolutely breathtaking office in New York, and he essentially spent an hour laying out for me what he had, what he'd so far done, and what he was thinking of doing. But it was a conversation. It was a, what could I do? And I remember just saying, there's a whole bunch of things I'd love you to do. I want to make sure they work with where you are. And he said, well, let me think about it. And I said, you know what, I will. And I'll put a call on I'll put a call on your schedule for next week. I'll check in with you, or maybe I'll come back up. I was working in DC at the time. And I thank him, I give him a hug, I get in the cab to go down to my next meeting. And by the time I get to my next meeting in Midtown, there's an email from him saying how much he appreciated me and the time and the conversation we had. And then he made a commitment 5 times what I asked him. And he said, this is a start.
This is a,
But it's what people share with you. And
yeah.
again, it isn't just about the money. It's about their values and their belief, their trust in you to listen, to try and figure out how it works, to coach them, to it's not really even about thinking at that point. It's really it's a partnership like none I've ever. I don't think I get to appreciate in the same way.
I love that. I love that. So the role is fundraising in terms of your kind of most favorite part of the leadership
Yeah.
role. Has there been a favorite position, company, or organization that you've worked for that you can call out? Was there one particular position, I guess, that was more meaningful than the other, or more important to you than the other, or have they all been stepping stones
It's
to?
really, it's really interesting. I worked for years in consulting, as you know, and always had a deep appreciation for my clients, whether it was a church or a hospital or, you know, trying to eradicate polio, right? That uh, always in awe of what people gave in terms of their time and their belief and frankly what they were empowering me to do on their
Hmm,
behalf or how to direct them.
right.
I will say though, working for my job before this one, when I was head of the foundation for a children's hospital here in Oakland, California, and we were both undergoing a major campaign, $150 million campaign, which was bigger than they'd ever done,
Right.
and going through a merger with the University of California, San Francisco. So kind of a lot of big things to do.
Yeah.
on a chassis that wasn't built for anything that size.
That's a great statement on a chassis that wasn't built for that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love
And
that.
and what I mean by that is, I mean, this is a safety net hospital that had 73% of our patients were Medi-Cal or Medicaid, as we know it across the country.
Yeah.
And so while I would go and talk with people, and we had a fabulous couple that made a leadership, made a gift. I remember something like $2.5 million, which was, oh golly, 20 times more than anything they'd ever given us. And what it meant to them. And when I asked them if they'd be willing to speak or share why they did it, they said, who'd you really like to talk to about this would be your employee campaign. We know you're doing one. And I said, sure, yeah. Any particular notes you want to hit? And they said, when our grandson died at this hospital, we were in so much anguish that we never had enough time to say thank you. And we want to tell them why we're making this gift, because it's thank you.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's just,
Yeah.
so you sort of look at that and you think, probably did. We're supposed to be upbeat and happy. I'm not supposed to get teary, but
No, no, it's
this is why
so real.
it's hard for you not to love the kind of work that you do when you have people like that
That's
say,
right.
this is what I want to do. And what a gift for those employees. I mean, there was not a dry eye. Let me tell you, there was
I'm
not a dry eye in
sure.
the room when people were saying that. And by the end, they finished it. And we were just we're in a campaign meeting.
Yeah. No,
People
I love
stood
that.
up and clapped and then came over and hugged them. And it was just a love fest.
Hmm.
So yeah, that might
Yeah, I
have been
love it. It's
that might
great. Well, clearly that couple, that donor impacted you significantly, as donors will and their stories will. I'm wondering who else there's been that you can point to that's really positively impacted your leadership journey and
have.
given you some great advice or given you an opportunity or however you might feel about
Yeah.
the individuals in your life that have helped you. Who have they been and what did they do?
Um, so we're going to spend the rest of the talk on this because the list,
No, no. In
right? I
fact,
mean,
in
it's
fact, we need to
amazing.
make it quick because we've got
Okay.
two
Okay. I
other
mean,
awesome
look,
stuff.
the
Yeah,
list is long.
yeah, fair.
I think you and I share, we probably do, although we worked in different parts of the company, but I would certainly say our former leader, Bill Henrihan, who led our company and who could be super tough,
Hmm.
super
Sure.
tough. And he would say to me,
Understatement of the century.
if I was not like, you can do better than this, Betsy, right?
Right.
And I appreciated
Tough
that.
love. Tough love.
But I also remember having a really tough time when I had him, he was I was his client, and I was feeling a little beat up, not by my organization I was his client. And he pulled me aside and he said, "You're just fine. You're good. Don't let him beat you. We're going to help
Hmm.
you with this." And it was, uh, really hearing that and that kind of, sort of friendship. I will also say, do you remember one time seeing him at, God, I think it was O'Hare or Minneapolis or something, where I'm sure you and I used to spend time seeing our colleagues in the airport as we were in between
That's
flights.
right.
And yeah, he was racing through and kicked my bag, and it was late, and it was like late evening, and I was exhausted, and I was about to do a really nasty look. I look up and I'm like, "Hey, boss," and he's like, "I'm just kidding you. You all right? I gotta go. Be okay?" And I'm like, "I'm okay."
Yeah. Oh,
So
so many wonderful lessons learned by that man. Yeah.
yeah. But I would also say, so many of my clients, mentors to me, taught me things. I feel like a lot of my, the beauty of the work we did early on, now like super young in a career, and you're working with leaders of communities
Yep.
as chairs of campaigns. And I feel like I learned a lot from them.
Yep.
Ways, patience, recognition, um, learning how to fake it till you make it, right? Which we all had to learn how to do a little bit. Um, Donors, like the folks I just shared. I would say also the CEO I worked for at that hospital was also he was actually a pediatrician by background and kind of fell into hospital administration and had the heart of a child and the kindness and playfulness. We'd get beaten up by something or struggling to figure out how we were going to pay for whatever bill was coming up. And then he'd take out his New Yorker magazine calendars. But here's a funny cartoon for today. Let's look at this before we get into what we're going to do next.
Yeah, a bit of a Patch Adams type character.
Yeah. But you need that. I think that sense of humor too, and that ability to just put it in perspective. Put it in
Yeah,
perspective.
I love it. Well, as a leader, a very strong nonprofit leader, what would you identify as your philosophy or what's important to you as a leader or the kind of leader with kind of characteristics that you want people to hopefully understand about your leadership?
Yeah. Um, I I struggle with this one because I was like, ooh, I'm not sure I've defined a philosophy or like there's no Biern doctrine, right?
Right.
What is
Yeah.
it? But I
Yet.
think
No.
it's sort of, yeah. But I think I just sort of thought more of sort of what are the principles, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
When you and I got started in the business, we had a whole book of what are our principles of running campaigns, right? The 11 principles. So I was like, okay, I got principles at least that I have. One is um, invite, invite, invite. Invite people to be a part of something.
Okay.
Invite them to learn about something. Welcome them in by invitation. And that isn't always a little different than asking,
Hmm.
um,
Hmm.
right? Because there's an invitation makes it there's a specialness in what we're asking. This is something
I like
out
that.
of
Yeah.
the ordinary, right? So I think about inviting. Be curious. Be curious about the people you're inviting. Be curious about who you should next invite. Be curious about, and by being curious about them, what makes them tick? Where do they want to have an impact? Where does that align with your organization? If it doesn't, but there's somebody interesting, can you find somebody else that they can align with? How many
Hmm.
times do we all make connections, right? That we
Right.
have people, we have somebody, I have a friend who regularly seems to send young people who are thinking about going to the nonprofit sector to me. She says, I know you're always really good about talking with them and willing to make some connections for them.
That's
So
right.
it's always that sort of openness of maybe this isn't going to click, but if you are hungry to do something and have an impact, how can I help you with that? Because it's just part of, I think, right? I think it's just kind of part of the ethos of the sector, like, right?
It
That what
is.
the all ships rise, right? Like
Hmm.
we've got to make it better. So I think those are the principles. And then look, I mean, the other is, and I think it's funny, been recently interviewing candidates for some open positions I have. And the quickest way to not move forward in that process is to not start with the mission. What's the mission? you
Yeah.
know,
Good.
um,
Right.
because it's you know I- if the mission isn't sort of first and foremost in the thinking, then it's not going to work at all.
It's great.
So I
It's
think
great.
those are principles. We'll get to philosophy. I'll work on the beer doctrine next time.
No, 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 no. I think that's amazing, and you probably spend a lot of time with your team and with your organization, figuring out how you can extend more invitations, how you can increase the level of curiosity and how it allows you to learn and grow more, and also how you can continue to advance the mission, be focused on the mission, let the mission drive you, inspire other people. So I think it's really well articulated there. I love things in threes, and so that the Beard Doctrine is born.
Okay, good.
Perfect. Well, if that wasn't enough, we also want to talk about some pretty weighty things as it relates to nonprofit leadership. We spend a little bit of time with each of our guests talking about an element of nonprofit leadership that's relevant and important to them. And for this conversation, Betsy's going to help us focus on the ways to empower and support nonprofit board members to allow them, as I said earlier, to lead with clarity, purpose, and accountability. And so let's start with the more broad and generic question, which is why is strong board engagement so essential to the success of a nonprofit organization like Make-A-Wish?
Yeah. Well, uh, I think that's actually kind of a softball, right? Because if they're deployed, if they're engaged, if they're inspired, if they're ready to kind of give it their all, their impact on our mission, on our resources, on our direction, on our broader community is exponential.
Okay,
If they're not deployed, it's just a drain, right? It's just taking away from everything.
that's great.
It's taking my
That's
staff
right.
time and it's depleting their resources and their focus and their energy.
That's so amazing, and thank you for saying that because you could almost have a meter that runs positive and negative, almost like you're in a car and you're driving and it kind of depletes, and then you're on cruise and it charges that battery, you know. And so
Totally.
so you're thinking about what is this board member individually and as a group, board members as a group, what are they allowing the organization to do? It's an incredible graphic, right? Are you charging us? I mean, are you allowing us to exponentially move forward? Or are you depleting us because you're
Yeah.
sucking time away, energy away, resources that should otherwise be deployed elsewhere in more productive ways?
Yep. Exactly. Exactly.
Super. That's a great point of reference that I hadn't thought before. So thank you for framing it in such an important way. You've talked to me about annual impact plans.
Yeah.
Can you walk us through how you use impact plans to set expectations for your board
Yeah.
members?
Absolutely. Uh, you know, a number of years ago, I remember interviewing a candidate for the board, and and we have always come really since I've been here, and we've really tried to strengthen our whole governance. We started with having a very clear, succinct set of expectations: financial, participation, mission, professional community, other resource, right? So it's just really, really clear.
And they're receiving these in advance. They
Receive them in advance. They're discussed. They're discussed in interviews with me, with our governance committee, with our board chair, so that it's reiterated over and over again. These are the 5 things we expect you to do. These are the meetings. I mean, we lay out our board meetings on this sheet 3 years in advance. Just get these on your calendars. And I've actually had a board candidate say to me, you know what, I'm going to have to put my hat in the ring next year because I see these meetings and I know that these Thursdays are days that are coming right before I have, shareholder announcements. I can't do it this year, but I
yeah,
do.
fair enough.
I'll stay on this committee and do this, right? So
Right.
it's very serious about what we do, so that when they come on the board, then we start their orientations, and we did this for every board member. We have built out, think of them as personal business plans. We're
Right.
just building on a structure and we've got it built according to the expectations. So here's a reminder of when all the meetings are. Are you going to be able to make these?
Right.
Look at your calendar, right? Can you put these on your calendar? We put them on, but are they there? Do you see conflicts? We do committee assignments in advance. We ask everybody to either serve on a committee or a task force. We have had throughout the years board members who've gotten promotions to be CEOs of their publicly traded companies.
Hmm.
I don't want to lose them, but I still need their help, right?
Yeah.
When I may not get their advice at a committee meeting, or I may not always get it at a board meeting. I want to make sure that I've got time with them, at least quarterly, to share with them. Here's some of the issues that I'm facing. I could really use some help. I could use your insight. You've got a totally different insight than I do. So we build these out and we go through financial pieces and get commitments in right away. Easier to get them done at the beginning of the fiscal year. And then I ask, okay, so what's your timing for when you want your invoice for your board unrestricted? And I'd love it if I could lock you in as a sponsor for Gala now, even though it's not for 6 months.
Right.
And by the way, we're starting a campaign. When's a good time for me to come and talk with you about it? Easy, right? You just kind of get it done. You lay those expectations out. The same when we talk with mission, and we lay out for people, do you want to go through certain training? Do you want to be involved in this? And so we've just sort of built this form. It's tailored to everybody.
Perfect. That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah, there are parts that don't work. I mean, not everybody I have on my board, works for a big consulting firm where they have gobs of employees that might want to do employee engagement. I have some people that we love airline miles, right? Like that's a big thing for us. We send kids on trips all the time. So I love people donating airline miles.
Got it.
Members that don't have airline miles. I don't have to spend time talking to them about that.
Right.
But I can talk with them about, hey, let's talk about, we ask them in their board applications, other boards they've been on, schools their kids have gone to, other organizations they're part of, social clubs, civic clubs, and we'd like to spend some time talking with you. How could we best do this? How could we map out your universe? So it's that's really tailored, and they're conversations. But what we do is we also fill these out so that then people have it. We have a board portal that we use, so it immediately comes up in their board portal. They can access it. We revisit it during the year, both with me, but also with a member of the governance committee.
Okay, so how many times on an annual basis would you review it with them, or
at
time?
least 2 times a year.
Okay, great.
And then what we also will do, something we've been trying to institute now because our board, we have a fairly large geographic territory. So our board members are not always moving in the same social or professional circles.
Sure.
They don't know each other as well. We have, a board meeting a quarter, but we have committee meetings more frequently, but the board doesn't necessarily know one another as well as you might on a smaller community board.
Sure.
So what we've also started to do is we'll put together sort of a kind of quick report card for them that they will receive individually, that our board chair will receive, and be working with them at the start of the fiscal year to say, this is how it looked last year. And then she'll also be able to we'll draw out for her some of the trends we're seeing in aggregate so that that's shared with the board and that the government committee.
So this is something you would prepare for the board chair to help you kind of measure and help move board members in the board chair's conversations with individual board members, which is an important
and pull in the aggregate too, so that people can say, hey folks, so you all remember we had you fill out that survey in July when we asked you how many committee meetings did you attend, how many meetings did you
Right. Yeah.
You all know that you're great. Like I first board I've ever had that I never worry about 100% giving. They're great. They all give.
Yeah, it's nice.
But I have people that aren't necessarily making their committee meetings. I have to know they're not all reading the materials that we're publishing a week in advance.
I'm shocked.
I know, right?
I'm not shocked.
It's amazing. I can't believe that people don't want to read my strategic plan and business plan and budget.
Right.
But we've haven't. And we've but starting to be able to share in the aggregate, how are we doing as a board and where are we moving the needle and where are we, if so many of us are having an issue reading our materials in advance, what could we do to help get people doing that? Is the format?
I've always thought that it might be most helpful to have two sort of back-to-back sessions where you have one session that just goes through almost like a podcast. The information's being presented to them so that they can absorb it. Yes, ask questions and whatnot. But it's clearly the more boring part, but the part where you don't have a lot of engagement. You just absorb what's
Yeah,
going on and all
yeah.
that. And then you have a separate meeting where you tackle the strategic issues of the day, whatever that might be, because inevitably most board meetings that I've been involved in are kind of three quarters just being talked to, and then
Yeah.
maybe a short amount of time where you can engage in some interesting topic, right? And
This is a
um,
really interesting idea.
yeah,
I'm trying to
it would
think of
be.
it. It's
So
like,
then you don't require people to actually go through a 30-page document
yeah.
or whatnot,
Well, and
right?
look, it's my bias too, right? Like when we do, we have a DEIB task force that we do monthly learnings, and what the task force will put together for the staff. Here's the option of listening, watching, or reading. And I always pick the reading because I love to read.
Yeah,
But,
I would be listening or watching you.
right. And so maybe what we need to do, change the format. This is brilliant. Thank you. Am I allowed
Hey, well, let me know
to?
how, let me know how it goes, and we'll have to do another podcast where we talk about
Love it.
the changing nature of board meetings into to two meetings. Well, yeah, so many boards now are moving into consent decree agenda formats where you're
Oh, we
expected
always
to
do that.
have read the
Yeah.
materials and let's just vote. We're not gonna the controller or the CFO is not going to present the numbers. We're not going to present the program report. We're not going to present. You're just going to get it and you're going to vote to approve it. It'll be in the minutes, right?
Yeah.
Which
We
dangerously,
don't put that much in our consent agenda. We put
yeah.
some of, not all of it. I don't think I could get away
I
with
said consent
it.
decree,
I
consent agenda. I got to get my terms straight. Yeah, consent agenda. Yeah,
I don't
exactly.
think they'd allow me to do put my financials in the consent agenda.
Well, it's interesting to understand how much could be placed in there, and with the
Yeah.
expectation that board members are actually reading or actually
Yeah.
reviewing, understanding, and making good decisions, informed
Yeah.
decisions. So anyway, it'll be a great um, conversation to continue and strategy maybe to pursue.
Yeah.
But I was interested in the idea of individualizing these plans because every board member I've ever met brings with them certain strengths,
Mhm.
assets, interests, time constraints, So how do you kind of make sure that you're identifying what their strengths are, identifying what they're interested in, and developing an impact plan or a plan that takes those things into account?
I think a lot of it starts just in the recruiting process, that you're really getting to know people before they're coming on board.
Good.
So that you're already really identifying what these things are, um, and then paying attention during the year and sort of seeing, look, are people checked into this? Is this something that they really want to do? Um, we actually have just gone through also a series of meetings. So our development committee chair got a promotion and a huge job and said, I can't continue to do this. And luckily, we had a member of the committee who's very qualified who said, I'm happy to take it on. And it's a lot to take on because you're not just the chair of the committee, you also then serve on the executive committee of the board, which meets more frequently. But what I really appreciated was, again, she's done this before. She said, I really want to check in with each of these committee members. I want to talk with them about what they see and where they've been. And I want you to help, Betsy, you and your staff help me help them figure out where they're really going to have an impact. And this is all learning for me, the chair of the committee. So I love that she did that. And
Yeah.
I love that, a week ago, I got a note saying, hey, by the way, so and so just doesn't feel like the development committee is right for her. She's got so much more background in governance, really thinks she could contribute there, and she'd really like to move for this upcoming fiscal year. Right on,
Yeah.
right?
Right
What a
on.
gift.
Great.
When people say that to you and say, I really think I could do more here, I could add more. And by the way, I need some more people on my governance committee. So it was sort of serendipitous.
Yeah.
So I think a
Well,
lot of
that's
it is
the
check.
impact of a great chair. That's
Yeah,
that.
exactly. Putting the time in, listening to people, but also sort of staying on it because it's
Staying on it.
right.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that's the other piece, when I was thinking about this question too, right? Having a plan, I serve on boards, you serve on boards, plenty of us serve on boards, and we all know the same thing. The more good, clear direction we're getting, and as I say, insert me in the process where you need me, pull me out when I don't need to be there anymore.
Yeah. Right.
We're all far more effective when
Right.
it's
Right. Right.
when you're setting these goals, but then you're not asking me specifically what you want me to do, and you're not helping me get there for you in the words you want me to say and the person you
Yeah.
want me to, right? I'm not going to do it.
Right. Or, why don't you just tell me what you want me to do? It's like
And if you
stop beating
don't,
around the bush, right?
and if
Just
you don't know, we should have a series of conversations until we figure out what do you think I can do? Like, why am I here in the first place?
yeah, why am I here? Yeah.
And
Well,
ask,
let's assume that they do know why they're there. They do have clear objectives, activities that they're responsible for. Let's move into that delicate topic of accountability. What are the strategies that you found most helpful in holding board members accountable without making the experience feel punitive?
yeah. Um, we're still working on that.
Right.
The hardest thing. I would say one, this sort of scorecard that we're doing so that there's both individual and then there's conversations in the aggregate.
Scorecard.
Um, we spend time. So I write a weekly email to the board.
Good for you. I love that. I love
Right?
that.
Really quick. It's really easy. And it starts with thanks. And I say who I'm thanking that week and for what.
Great.
Right. So
Such good
that's
advice.
because you see that name and you see what somebody did. Thanks, Kristen, for donating your Southwest airline miles. Thanks, Marty, for making a leadership gift to the campaign.
Great
Thanks,
advice.
Nisha, for going on a wish assist to take our kiddo to the San Jose Giants. That's what this week says.
I love it.
And then I have to do, and then I have all things fundraising, and then I have we're hiring if we're hiring, right? And then I
Yeah.
have sort of here's the weekly mission snapshot. Um, but when people
How long
see,
does that take you, by the way?
oh, well, I start at Mondays and I have my staff, everybody, sort of team leads, everybody gives me something. They know to try and get it to me by
Yeah.
Thursdays,
Perfect.
or earlier if not. Sometimes I repeat the things, but, and then what we do is we take that memo and cut it back, and then send it off to our advisory councils and our board committees.
Great. Yeah.
And so it's just out there.
I
It's
love
out
it.
there.
Yeah. All kinds
All
of,
my team leads are CC'd on it, so they know what's going out in case somebody reaches out to them about a question.
I love it. That's
So,
great.
right, so thanking people and recognizing them because people see it, giving them really specific calls to action. There is a calls to action every single week in that memo.
Yeah.
Um, staying in touch with them, right? So it's not if I ask you to do this and I haven't heard from you, then you're checking in. Is there anything I could do to help you? Is this a good time? Could we schedule a time to talk this through? So I
Good.
think always looking for that. How can I help you help me? And then sometimes it goes to the governance committee, it goes to the chair or the vice chair or the governance chair to have a conversation. Hey, it looks like
Mhm.
things aren't working out. We haven't had
Yeah.
to we haven't had to do that too many times, but you got to do it sometimes because it's like having an employee that's sort of poison that you don't do anything about.
Yeah. Well, I
And
think the assumption for many people, board members, leaders, whatever, would be that the governance committee is there to find new board members or to kind of maintain tracking of current
yeah,
board members' status in terms of terms and whatnot, but not necessarily to have the difficult conversations
yeah,
with underperforming or non-performing board members,
yeah,
right? Which
yeah,
happens, which is a reality for almost any board.
Yeah.
I joke with people the law of thirds on boards, where you have a third of the people that show up and do the work, a third of the people that show up and don't do the work, and a third of the people that don't show up and don't do anything. And it's the bottom third that you have to
Yeah.
really worry about, and deal with. And it can't always be the executive director. There
No,
needs to
no. I
be
mean, but
that.
I think a lot more of this, and it's interesting, and I notice it in the way we're using the board and really train them to do more fundraising too, is that it the peer-to-peer really makes a difference.
Yep, peer
It's
to
just
peer.
it's a different level of conversation.
Yeah, I love it. Well, when you're recruiting for board member positions, you said that there are clear expectations that are provided to them. They probably have multiple conversations, listening sessions to understand what their strengths might be, where they can hopefully plug in and impact. Um, but kind of how do you set those expectations? How do you establish the right culture for engagement with board members when they're coming on? What are those? I think you mentioned attendance and giving, the financial and committee roles, but tell me a little bit about how a new board member would understand why they're on the board and what they're expected to do.
Yep, yep. Um, so our recruiting process starts at the beginning of our fiscal year,
Okay.
which is September. We have a funny fiscal year, September 1st to August 31st.
Okay.
And we put up a slate of new board to be voted on at the end of June. So that gives us a lot of time to identify and have a series of conversations where we're laying out expectations from the get-go on the literal sheet of paper that is also
Hmm.
emailed to them and talked through and shown during at least three conversations before they've even said, yeah, I think I want to be on the slate.
Okay.
We invite them we have a board retreat in May, and we often invite them as guests to come and join us to kick the tires with us. We're always having working sessions, and it's generally about, what we're planning out for the year. There's trainings. There's obviously a lot of focus on fundraising because that's what we do.
Right.
Um, and then there's a revisit afterwards with me and with the governance chair about how they're feeling. Are they ready to continue to do it and to go through the process of applying to be on the board? Um, then we invite them. Then we go through the slate. They get voted on. They come on. We invite them to participate in the final board meeting of our fiscal year as guests
Nice.
that they are attending, because that's where we have them approve our budget and our business plan, and this year our strategic plan. So they are introduced to, first of all, using our board portal because they're trained on it. It's, hey, we're going to get you on this. You're going to see this board book when everybody else does. We're going to expect you, sort of, here's what we expect you to do. Here's the reading. This is what we're going to be talking about. Here's the agenda. And they're supported by me, and I have a governance associate that helps with the logistical pieces of it. They'll come to the board meeting, they'll see how there's interaction, and then literally the first week of the fiscal year is the start of orientation. So we have two sets of orientation sessions. So they're there with at least the board chair and the governance chair for part of them. We are actually this year going to invite past, all board members to join in if they'd like. Because you think about it, you go to an orientation, it's so much information coming at you, and it's maybe a year later that it starts to make sense. Who is this
Right.
organization? What do they do? So those are two sessions, and they're introduced to each department. They're kind of walk through purpose and staff and impact and what they're doing and cost. Uh, and then after that, then there's the meeting to start with me to start to build their board impact plan.
Super. That's wonderful. I mean, that was such a clear um, review of the step-by-step process that would have a heck of a great result in terms of a board member feeling like they were properly onboarded and had a good understanding of what their expectations are, rather than being sort of plopped in the middle of a meeting and said, "Thank you very much. Let's welcome our new board member." Everyone claps, and the board member's like, "Glad to be here. Have no idea what I'm supposed to do, but
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly. And we
which
don't
is
want to
just
do
so
it. And by
dangerous
the
and
way,
unnecessary."
we bring them on once a year. They're in a class. Because you just find it's easier to go through it's easier to meet people. It's easier to kind of
I
connect
love
with
it.
people.
Yeah, yeah,
It's just it doesn't help us if we're bringing people on each time. Again, like that's a drain on resources.
yeah.
It's
And what's the term for the board members?
a 3-year term, 2 3-year terms.
Two, three, and then a year off or something, maybe, or because they could
They
probably
can
come.
certainly go on to as advisory board members. It's interesting. We actually have 2 members of the board coming off of their 6-year, their second 3-year term that
Yep.
will right over to advisory. And one is working on our campaign committee. Child had a wish, so she's knows us and gets us.
Yeah.
Another has been our governance chair and just super committed to us, does a lot of pro bono work for us. And she's also, we have a special program because we send a lot of kids on travel wishes. She travels all the time for work. And so she's one of our airport, she helped our family. A lot of our families have never traveled before.
Yep.
So we have a program for people that will go to the airport and help the families get through security and get onto the
Hmm.
flights.
Interesting.
And she does that and then can usually jump on her own flight after
Yeah.
she's people on at 6 a.m. to fly to Orlando or something.
Yeah.
So
I love it.
yeah,
And you mentioned scorecards, so that's a way that you would measure contributions of time, energy, money, and all those things,
totally.
right?
Very
That's
easy
one
to
of,
do. I mean, we can track all of them. The beauty of having a board portal, right? You can very easily track what people are doing, whether you track their attendance, because it's easy to keep track of if you're doing attendance. I mean, we use Board Effect, but it's a super easy portal to use. But we can also track who's opened their books or hasn't.
right, right,
Still a little
right.
bit of a problem. We'll get there.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, it's becoming easier and easier to measure almost everything and to track. I know in some of the work that I'm doing as a volunteer fundraiser, I'm now able to log in and access my prospects and make notes and get
Oh
those
yeah.
that
Yeah.
information. And it's fascinating because it'll say, "Hey, you last logged in." At this date and this time,
Oh
and here are the other volunteers and when they logged in,
yeah.
so it's
And yeah, I
nice.
noticed that for one of my alma maters, I did that, and I was like, "Oh, I am behind."
Right,
And we have a
right.
reunion
But
coming up.
again, accountability, right? It's I would hate someone to say they're shaming me. No, they're giving you the truth. You need to
Yeah.
do this stuff, and they're just
Giving you
pointing
the
out.
tools to look and see, right? And the only hard part is if they don't say, "Hey, notice that you haven't been able to log in a while. What can we do to help you?"
Right. That's very good because it is still on staff
Yeah.
to be the accountability partner, the strength lifting coach, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
to these volunteers because you're not paying them enough to do this maybe proactively, right? So
Listen, I have a colleague here at Make-A-Wish, one of my fellow CEOs, and he said, he's done some great things with this board. And I said, "How do you do it?" And he said, "Betsy, think about this. In a good year, you're going to have these people for 24 hours. How are you going to use 24 hours?" And I was like, "Oh, wow, you're right. It's one day. Very
one
different.
day a year.
One day a year. So how are you going to do
When
it?"
when you aggregate it all together, it's
Yeah.
eh,
So A, manage your expectations,
right.
and B, manage theirs. 24 hours,
Right.
like you can do.
Manage expectations. Yeah, I mean, be excellent at effectively utilizing whatever time,
Yeah.
and just don't assume that someone's going to be giving 20 hours a week. Yeah, we all know those volunteers that for whatever reason are giving 40 hours or 60 hours a week or 20 hours a week. And you're like, wow, if not for you, we would be dead. But but those are outliers, right? And you can't always assume that they're going to be there. Better to assume you're only going to have 24 hours and then um, be very pleased when you have better volunteers. But
I think it's
I
also that
love that idea.
acknowledgement too, right? Like life happens. I mean, I've
Life,
had three of my great board members get promoted to be CEOs of really major organizations.
yeah,
So you gotta figure out how to roll with that, or you're
right.
gonna.
Right, you do. And the reality that I always share in my own life too is that I have unending tasks,
Yeah,
and some things just emerge or bubble up to the top
yeah,
that I have to tackle or I feel like I have to tackle. And often, if it's a volunteer responsibility, it might fall below my professional engagement. It might fall below my family engagement or responsibilities, right? And it might stay buried until some staff member calls me, reminds me,
yeah,
or encourages me to bring it to the back to the top of the list.
right. Or what can
Yeah.
we do to help you? If we can't do this, can we take some of this off your plate and help you with the rest of it? Yeah.
Yeah, whatever you can do, but always being in front of them and in dialogue with them will, and offering to partner with them and help them is such a great idea. So let's talk about advice, the advice that you would give other nonprofit leaders. What advice would you offer other CEOs, other executive directors, leaders looking to strengthen their board engagement and accountability structures?
Look at your own job description and build it in.
Yep.
I probably spend 40% of my time on my board,
Interesting. That's
if
great.
not, if not more, right? So that's number one. Um, which means be intentional about it, right? It
Hmm.
should be on your to-do list every day. There's some touch. Is there a phone call to somebody I haven't talked to in a while? Is there a note of thanks? Is there, from the one-on-one to the weekly, how am I going to stay in touch with you? Um, I think there's the relationship to build with your leadership team, right? Your chair, your vice chair, always kind of thinking through who's that executive committee that those are your rock stars.
Right.
So continue those relationships with them. Um, I think the other is just it's, and this is probably the fundraiser in me, right? Always prospecting for the next class of board members. Who do
Mm.
you need? Right? Be smart about it. Years ago, I was taught how to build a board matrix and really map out how are we looking at it. A lot of it's still in my head. I know where we have gaps, but to have something like that again makes it super clear for not only your governance committee, but your board. This is what we're looking at. These are the industries we're not represented, or this is
Right.
not. Um,
You mentioned geography too, being in the
oh
Bay
yeah,
Area.
yeah.
I
For
mean, you've
us, we
got
have to. I
East
mean,
Bay. Yeah.
we've got a 17 county territory from Monterey County to the Oregon border. How many?
Oh my goodness.
Everything west of the five. Like, I mean, we have easily, arguably, five major metro areas just within the San Francisco Bay.
Right. And one
Right.
board.
So then you go up to, you go to wine country, or you go to lumber country, or it's just big ag down south. Like it's totally different. So, and there, continue to be gaps in that. So I think it's how do you always think through how you build out those gaps?
Right.
Um, and then I think it's also, I think one thing, going back to your question about mentors, I had a I had a really great board member early on who was a very good mentor and just sort of said, be aware of as a CEO, one of the things I learned, he said to me was, one, I learned that I needed to pay attention to the people I had around me who were working for me. And sometimes I kept people on longer than I should have.
Yeah.
And I also learned and needed to be really aware of what my blind spots were and how do I fill those in around the table. And so paying attention not only to the matrix, but paying attention to what are the other blind spots that I don't know around the table. Where do I need to fill those? And that's some of that, looking at that, the kind of main industries where we still have some blind spots, right? I don't have anybody from ag on my board. We need
Interesting. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
wonderful.
So I think those are things I think about.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's perfect advice to give to nonprofit leaders looking to enhance their board and the engagement and accountability of their board members. And I just wanted to say thank you, Betsy, for sharing your expertise and wisdom with the group. So much here that the audience will need to unpack. I have no doubt that this is going to really positively impact a number of nonprofit leaders and executives that choose to listen and plug into this podcast. It really, I think, is going to be helpful for leaders to better understand the approach to onboarding and engaging and keeping board members accountable. So thank you.
Oh, I hope
Unfortunately, yeah, well, unfortunately, though, that brings us to the end of the show. And I just wanted to thank you again, Betsy, for joining us. Thank you to the audience for being a part of it. If you're liking the podcast, please subscribe, follow the show. We've got 2 other shows that I invite you to follow as well, like the way I used invite. Invite you to follow Mastering Fundraising, invite you to follow the Nonprofit Edge. Those are great podcasts as well. Each of them, we really interview experts in the field, talk about their journey, and talk about something that they're expert in and can provide some great advice and guidance to those of us out there that are really trying to level up our skills. So until next time, wishing you all the best and encouraging you all, whenever you can, to lead for good. Thanks all.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you for joining us for this most recent episode of Lead for Good. Our passion is helping nonprofit leaders reach their full potential as leaders, and we sincerely hope this episode has been edifying for you. Please subscribe to this podcast to not miss any of our Lead for Good conversations. We welcome your feedback, suggestions, and comments via email at hello@fulcrumleader.com. Lead for Good is a production of Fulcrum Nonprofit Leadership. Please visit us on the web at www.fulcrumleader.com. Until next time, we wish you all the best and encourage you to always lead for good.